I'm Miwa Messer. I'm the producer and host of Poured Over. And Ann Packer, it is a delight to see you. There's a new novel, Some Bright Nowhere. And I have to admit, I have been reading you since Mendocino and Other Stories was available, not from a publisher everyone has heard of, but Chronicle Books was trying to do fiction. I don't even remember what year that was. Was it like
94?
Okay.
94.
All right.
Yep.
So I was
takes us back.
Mm-hmm, I was a baby bookseller a long time ago. But I remember thinking these stories are just so good and I want more. And you have given me much more since then. Another story collection and 4 novels now. This is the 4th, right?
This is the 4th novel, yeah.
So Dive from Clausen's Pier it wasn't an immediate, it was out for a couple of months, got great reviews, and then suddenly it shot up.
Well, a thing happened.
Well, yes, a thing happened. And then the novel after Clausen's was, I'm going to have to look at my notes. Hold on.
Okay.
I have it right here. Songs Without Words?
Yep.
Okay. And then we had the Children's Crusade.
Right.
And now we have Some Bright Nowhere. And I think we're going to sit more with the novels today because there's some thematic stuff that I'd like to play with you. Not that we don't do it in the stories, but the way the 4 novels sit together. And also, you do take your time between books, which I appreciate. I mean, it took you, 10 years to write Clausen?
Dive, yeah. It took me 10 years from, setting literally pen to page, that we're talking about 91, I think, to having a publisher, or even maybe till it came out. Maybe 11 years if it's that measurement. But I was raising my kids during that time. But I was also doing a lot of drafts. So it really did occupy a lot of time, that one book.
And if I remember correctly, too, you switched POV. You went from third-person POV to first.
I did.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, I did. And at right about the halfway point, I was like 5 years, and then you go, wait, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
I was teaching at the time, and I remember telling my students, you have to be willing to change anything. This is not set in stone.
Right.
You're revising up until you're done, and it could be big or little. And then one day I went, oh my God, I'm not listening to my own advice. I've got to try this alternative point of view.
But if I remember correctly, too, and I think this was something you said around the time that Children's Crusade came out, which 10 segments, 4 narrators, first-person POV, and 5 decades. So 50 years in the history of a family.
And an omniscient narrator also.
Okay, and right, all right. So I knew there was an extra layer there. But same thing, you hadn't quite planned it. It's just the thing revealed itself as you were working on it, right?
Fairly early.
Okay.
I knew that I wanted to get each of the children in adulthood with their adult voices. But I also knew I wanted an overarching omniscient narrator to sort of do the family stuff, the family scenes.
Part of why I wanted to start with Clausen's and Children's Crusade before we get to the new novel is when I think of you, right, one of the first things I think of is that there's always this sort of deep-set question about loyalty and what we owe our people. And I am very deliberately setting up Some Bright Things using these earlier books because of this idea of what do we owe the people we love? Right? What's our commitment? And it's a question that actually a lot of people find profoundly uncomfortable.
I suppose because if you ask yourself that question, then you may deny yourself the ability to do certain things that would go against those principles.
One of the things I love about the central couple in Some Bright Nowhere, we meet Claire and we meet Elliot at a very vulnerable moment. And I have to say I was deeply surprised when you were in a doctor's office. And I'm thinking, oh, well, of course, we've gotten good news. They're leaving. And I'm going to let you set this up.
So they're leaving the doctor's office for the last time because treatment is no longer working.
Right.
Elliot's wife, Claire, has had cancer for 8.5 years, and it's time to stop treatment, enter hospice, and get ready for the end. So that's where the book starts. with that kind of decision and that little scene in the doctor's office.
That little scene, though, turns into a thing that actually made my jaw drop. And Claire and Elliot have had a very good marriage. They have a couple of kids who are adults. One is launched a little more than the other, and we're going to come back to the kids. They have a very nice life in Connecticut. They have friends who love them. They have an active couple's life, but also, despite the cancer. But they have lives, big lives. And then Claire looks at Elliot and says, I would like you to leave.
Yeah, but it's important, I think, to say what she says is, I would like my friends with me.
Right.
That's the primary thing that she wants. And the secondary thing is, and so Elliot, it's just going to be us three women.
It knocked me for a loop, though, I have to say. I was not, and this is early in the book. This is very, very early in the book. And, certainly the primacy of female friendship, we've seen it before, right? Songs Without Words, certainly. But I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting Claire to put her friends ahead of Elliot. Mm-hmm. And I'm not one of these people who listen, if you want to get married, that's great. Have a nice life. Enjoy your marriage. And marriage is not a thing that I actually actively believe in as an institution. Mm-hmm. But it seemed to me that Claire and Elliot had a good thing. And I was just surprised. I was really surprised.
And she would say they still do. She would say, this is not a referendum on our marriage.
Right.
This is about what I want here at the end. Mm-hmm. I want to be with my women friends. Mm-hmm. And she's been inspired by the death of a friend a year or two earlier,
right,
who wasn't married and was surrounded by women as she died. And Claire was one of those women. And she saw something in that, and she was, that's what I want for myself. But they have had a good marriage, and one of the struggles for both of them is, how does she make the request and not have him feel like completely rejected? And for him, if he does what she wants, does that mean this whole marriage was not what I thought it was?
And it does raise that age-old question, how well do you know your people? I mean, they've been married for decades. Yep. They have adult children. They have a couple's life, the lives of couples that have been, they are deep in their community.
Right. And it's whimsical. Mm-hmm. It's not like she's researched what kinds of deaths are available and, carefully chosen which type she wants. It's a total whimsy based on an afternoon spent with these two women friends, memories of the death of her friend a couple years earlier, and kind of like, why would I pretend that I feel differently from how I do at this moment at the end?
Which is a question that I love her to ask. She's a woman of a certain age. There is still sort of this streak of people pleasing that some people, male or female, it doesn't. People do have this people pleasing thing. It does oftentimes fall to women before it falls to men, though. And so the idea that she's saying, no, really, I don't want to fake it.
Right.
I'm actually kind of smiling as I think about this now.
But he also has to wrestle with the people-pleasing impulse. Because it's his choice. I mean, he actually has a choice, whether he does as she wishes and sort of cedes the ground to her friends, or he says, I think I'll just stay here.
Right.
And so he very much has to decide whether he's going to please her. And his decision is, what do you do with your spouse's dying wish?
Right. So here we are in Ann Packer territory, looking at loyalty and commitment and how well we know our people. I mean, I am firmly in your world. Also, maybe 230 pages. This is not
very short.
This is not a long novel. And in some ways, it does make me think of Catherine Newman's last novel, Sandwich. Wreck is the new one. It's kind of that There's a wry sensibility to it. It's a very life-affirming novel about cancer. Hello. Hello. What have you done? But at the same time, part of me is wondering where this book started for you.
So I rarely draw from real life.
Uh-huh.
I would say 18 years ago or so, I heard of a situation where there was a couple that they were older, older than Elliot and Claire, and the wife was dying, and he was deemed inadequate to the task. He just wasn't up to giving her a good death. And so her friends came and moved in and saw her to her ending. And I heard about that. I heard almost nothing about it, no details, which probably is why I kept thinking about it. And I got it. I got the sort of women taking care of women, that impulse, the intimacy of it, the kind of ease in a way. But I couldn't stop thinking about the husband. Like, what does he do with that?
Right.
And, 15 years later, whatever, 16 years later, I decided to not find out what happened in that situation, but, invent one where I could pull strings and see where they went.
I mean, I'm stealing a line from an earlier review of one of your books where the critic said, Ann Packer's been looking in our windows. And not in a creepy way, but I love that visual because I do feel like, whether we're in Wisconsin or New York or Silicon Valley or, in this case, the suburbs of Connecticut, I recognize the world because you have so much compassion for your characters. And I know I'm not talking about that in a sentimental way. I mean, there are moments where I will talk about fiction in ways where I'm like, yes, I realize I just described a fictional character, like they're sitting next to me on the sofa. But for you too, it's the technical work that goes into getting the sentences right, the story right. But it all starts with character for you.
It does, but the characters don't exist until the sentences exist.
Okay.
I know this sounds ridiculous. It literally comes out of my fingers. I have nothing in my mind until I'm at the keyboard, and it comes into being as I type. I mean, I can start a sentence and have no idea how I'm going to get out of it.
Okay. So,
I mean, that's a first draft phenomenon, obviously.
But does Claire show up first and then Michelle and Holly? Or is it sort of, this is where I want to... I know you say you don't plan the writing. I understand that part, but part of me feels like there's a little bit of a map somewhere.
Well, I had a situation where a woman's dying, her friends are going to take care of her, her husband's shut out. I mean, that's a lot already.
It is.
In terms of who the characters turn out to be on the page, when there's a sort of a similar story, although not as dramatic as what you mentioned about the dive from Clausen's Pier. When I first started to write this, I was using multiple points of view.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, this is going to be a rotation, and it's going to start with the woman who's ill, go to friend one, go to friend two, and end up with husband.
Right.
And I had a image for something that would happen late in the novel that I won't mention, but something more or less like what I was imagining at that time does happen late in the novel. I will say I wrote a 10-page chapter from the point of view of the woman, who, by the way, was not named Claire.
Okay.
She was named something else. And then I went to her friend, and I wrote another 20 pages. And I was like, yeah, no.
It didn't swing.
It just wasn't interested. It wasn't compelling to me. I felt like I had written a novel about a friendship between women, and I thought the hard part is going to be the husband.
Right.
That's what I should just focus on. So I had to change the name because I couldn't be using that character whose mind I had been in those 30 pages. And I gave her a new name, and I gave him whatever his name. I mean, I really didn't know anything about who they would be or who the friends would be or who their children would be when I wrote the first paragraph in the doctor's office.
But did you know you had to switch coasts? It's been a minute since you've been on the East Coast with your characters. With any characters.
That's true. It's true. I've been spending more time on the East Coast. I got married about 8 years ago, and we spend most of our time in New York.
Okay.
Still spend some time in the Bay Area and in Maine in the summer. It's a terribly rough life, and I admit it. I didn't want to do the California landscape again because that was my last novel, and it was very much about landscape. And the early writing that I did about the woman who wasn't Claire, I knew that there had to be a scene in Maine. And so it had to be a drive from Maine.
Right.
And I've lived in Connecticut. It's been a while, but I just very randomly sort of went, yeah, it's near New Haven.
I have to say, I really liked and it's partially because I grew up on the East Coast, and this is terrain I recognize. I've also spent a lot of time in Los Angeles, but as you and I both know, Los Angeles and the Bay Area may as well be Mars. It's not even the same state. But I feel like Claire and Elliot are very much a part of this establishment world, like in a nice way. They raised their kids, they're part of their community, they built their house, they did all sorts of lovely things. And yet this was not quite what anyone planned or saw happening, including them.
Nor was being diagnosed with cancer in her 50s.
Right.
I mean, the turn that their marriage and life took happened at that juncture, I think. And this is sort of I won't say the fallout, but the next thing from that thing. Very eloquent.
But Elliot, I mean, I feel for the guy, right? He is fully unprepared for all of these things are happening. You do send him on a tiny bit of an adventure, though.
I do.
He does. He ends up in California for a minute with a former neighbor. It's delightful watching Elliot try and Elliot's not having a good go of it, but he's trying. At one point also he thinks, well, I should go see my daughter. He really clearly loves Claire. He just doesn't really know what to do with himself.
Right, and in a way, this sort of expulsion from the home is a practice session for him.
Yeah.
For what's going to happen once she's really gone.
Yeah. I kept thinking that, but I don't think do you think Elliot knows that?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
He listen, the man can make ice. We've all met those characters where you're like, oh, you can't even make ice. No, he can cook. He's part of a dinner club. It's delightful. I mean, again, Elliot has a life. He's not sitting in a corner.
And you're struggling with whether or not he deserves it.
Yeah.
And my feeling was always, and a lot of people have sort of struggled with that same question, like, if this happened, then really what we have to decide is whether or not he deserved it. And for me, this is about Claire. This is about something that went on in her mind at an incredibly vulnerable time. And it broke things open a little bit. And in the end, and we don't want to give this away, so we'll talk around it. He's asking himself all along, why?
Right.
What was the reason? Was I not good enough? Was I not whatever? And she has her reasons. And he knows what it is. But in the end, it turns out that neither of them really understood the reason. And that's sort of like, if there's any suspense in the novel, it's what was the reason? And there is some resolution of that question.
But what's selfish, right? Who's selfish? What's selfish? What does selfish look like? How do you take care of yourself and your person and your children and your life? How do you have a good death? Is that selfish? Right.
And I think not. I mean, ultimately, I think this is your last decision. And if you're, I mean, a different writer would have written different characters. I could have written different characters, and it would have been a completely different novel. I think for Claire, it's one of the first times she's been willing to put herself first.
Yeah.
And it feels very uncomfortable for her too.
Which makes me think about Penny from the Children's Crusade. Because Claire and Penny are not necessarily polar opposites, but they orbit each other in a way that I find really interesting. So Penny, if you haven't read The Children's Crusade, Penny is the mom of these 4 children, 3 of whom are clearly sort of settled upon, and then there's what we called in our family a dividend. My dad always called the tag-along the dividend. And at one point, too, Penny has sort of a moment where she says, I didn't ever really want to do this. I did not want to be the stay-at-home mom with many children. And it is the final child who sort of forces her to really think about what's going on and how she's doing it. And she picks her art. She picks her art, which I get.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just live our lives. But I don't really see, shall we say, Penny making a decision like Claire might make, right?
Right. I mean, Penny is a much less psychologically evolved person than Claire. She's more impulsive, and she has a bad marriage.
Yeah.
She has a really bad marriage.
She does.
She's married to someone who's very, very devoted to the family, and really the family is everything for him. He's a doctor, but he's in a caretaking role at home also, whereas she's like literally leaves the house and goes to her studio to do her art. So right, she wouldn't ask, I think.
Do you think of your novels, and I should say, do you think of your work as having a moral center?
Well, I think that the situations that interest me have moral dimensions.
Okay.
How's that for
Yeah.
splitting hairs?
I know, I respect the choice. I mean, listen, when you're sitting next to someone who works with words, you the splitting of the words works.
Yeah. But I'm not coming at it saying I want to raise moral questions and answer them, or I want to raise moral questions and have my readers struggle with what the answer might be. It's more, these are the pressured and intense times of life. That's where story happens.
Right. That is exactly where story happens. I don't feel like you're judging the characters, and I don't feel like you're judging their decisions. But I think there are stakes, right? There are stakes. We have this tendency at times to say, well, this is a domestic novel, right? This is I'm going to use Michael Cunningham's The Hours, which is, I use the first section of that frequently when I'm talking about something like this, or even Virginia Woolf and Mrs. Dalloway, where it's like people are like, oh, that's a lovely little domestic novel. She's planning a dinner party. Or Mom is in the kitchen in Pasadena in 1950, 1953 or whatever it is, and she's baking a cake for her son.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is that the stuff of literature?
Right, and yes, it is. And I feel that way when I say, does your work, or if I ask you, does this work have a moral center? It's like, well, yes, because it's grounded, because there are stakes, because we are talking about human beings making human choices, and that reflects the world around them. I don't think Claire, if somehow you had decided to set this book in like 1975, I don't think Claire makes this decision in 1975.
No, it's very much of the 21st century, I think.
And the fact that we have a little more space to roam. But again, this idea that a woman would make a choice to, in a way, I'm going to treat Claire's request of Eliot as sort of her leaving, right? Like there is not a great body of literature of women leaving.
That's true. That's very interesting. And often when they do, they then have to go on and kill themselves.
Yeah, which we need that to stop.
Yeah.
We just need that to stop.
Enough with the punishment.
Let's just stop that now. I realize the Russians may have, did we technically say the Russians started it? My brain immediately went to Anna Karenina.
Right.
I'm like, oh, yeah.
Don't forget poor Emma Bovary.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that girl.
Rough life.
Not good. But is Claire's decision selfish? I don't feel like it is.
But I think the problem is to behave as if there were a thing called selfish and everyone agrees what's on one side of the line and what's on the other side of the line.
Which I don't think anyone agrees on anything at the moment. So
very, very few things. Very, very few things. So certainly her children think she's being selfish. I don't think Elliot thinks she's being selfish. I think he's just very hurt.
Yes.
Her friends they look a little askance at what she's doing. I mean, of course they're going to do it. But
they're both alone.
They're both alone in life. It's funny, when you said the thing earlier about a reviewer saying X, I thought you were going to quote the review where someone said that I'm a connoisseur of the selfish act.
Yeah, I saw that line too, and it's in my notes.
Yeah.
But I think the looking in on the windows, I think having that freedom to really sit with who we are and the decisions that you don't necessarily want to share with outsiders, right? Like, I can see Claire sitting down, maybe over dinner with Elliot, and saying, "Hey, I'm thinking this thing," and what? Oh no, she brings the world in. And he's a little horrified, too, when people he doesn't really know kind of know what's happening in his life.
Right. He does that thing that we so often do, which is to the beginning of an objection is, what are people going to think about this? Do people know? What are they going to think? What are they going to assume? And then you sort of evolve to, wait, what do I think?
Right.
You move inward as time goes on.
How much of Some Bright Nowhere surprised you? I mean, again, I realize you're writing without an outline. I mean, I understand that you are very intuitive about the work that you do, but you still have to be open to the possibility of being surprised, right?
Here, I'm going to split hairs again.
Okay.
You anticipated this really with the way you asked the question. I don't have the expectation that any particular thing will or won't happen.
Okay.
I can be pleased. I can think, I'll tell you, there's one element in this novel that occupies a fair amount of space.
Okay.
And it surprised me. And that is that Holly, the closest friend.
With the house.
With this
that crazy house.
architectural marvel. Her ex-husband is a TV writer. And a TV show of his basically bought the house. And when I first wrote the paragraph that first made a reference to that TV show, I definitely didn't realize it was going to, there would be a thread running all the way through the book about it.
I'm delighted that thread was there. Actually, I am Stuart, pretty funny dude, creator of the TV show. Stuart, who also thought his life was going to go in a different direction. Holly thought her life was going to go. No one anticipated where their lives would go, and that's kind of the joy of reading this book, too. Even though we've got Claire, who is very actively dying, it is very clear that she is actively dying. It's a very life-affirming novel. It really is a life-affirming novel. And being open to sort of, Stuart and his new bride, who's a dentist. Very nice touch. A dentist. All props to the dentist. But looking at how sort of the real estate shakes out and how the money shakes out, and clearly folks are comfortable. Michelle, who's one of Claire's dear friends who comes to help her with all of this, she has a really big life too. Everyone has a really big life, and yet you still no one can plan for tragedy. Right.
And you do have to take time off when someone's dying.
Right. Everything goes on hold.
Everything has to stop, and I think it's still shocking to people when a thing like this happens, that you just have to give into it. If someone becomes ill,
Right.
like, oh, does that mean you're not going to go to the graduation?
Right.
Well, yeah, no. I'm going to be, in bed holding on to life during the graduation or what have you.
I want to step away from your world for just a second, your world on the page. Because again, I do feel like I know when I'm reading you, I know when I'm grounded in the work, right? In the world and the people. But I want to talk about influences for a second, because you have always been a voracious reader. And yes, you have formally studied writing and what have you, but again, your worldview is very, very specific to you. And I want to talk about some of the writers that pull in to sort of, some of the writers that may have helped form you outside of whatever formal education happened.
It's always so hard to identify who influenced you, because everything influences you. Yeah. I think that my work benefited from my having read Alice Munro religiously. Who else? I just thought of a novel I read when I was quite young, maybe 24, by the writer Lynne Sharon Schwartz. Do you know that name?
I know her byline. I have not read her.
Disturbances in the Field.
Oh, yeah. Memories of it, but have not thought about it recently.
Yeah, that book was very, very emotionally intense. It was about a family. A thing happens. It does not shy away from pain.
Right.
And I didn't think, oh, this is going to inspire me.
Right.
But it's something I've thought about. It's a book I've thought about often over the decades since I read it.
One of the things I love most about reading novels, and I do love a short story, but novels are designed to capture interiority in a way that short stories can't. So that's the only reason I'm leaving short stories out of this part of the conversation. I wasn't completely raised by wolves. But watching Elliot go through what he goes through and watching Claire go through what she goes through, that interiority, that emotional truth. And there were a couple of moments where I had to sort of step back for a second and say, yep, I'm reading a novel. This is not necessarily, but that, to me, it comes out of the sentences. To me, it comes out of the structure. Because there were a couple of times, and I have to dance around this for a second, but there were a couple of moments where I really thought Elliot was going to sort of fall to pieces, and yet he doesn't. So that I'm kind of like, well, wait, is that me or is that him? Like, am I putting expectations on this character?
Well, of course. I mean, that's what we do. Right. I mean, that's how we interact with people.
Right.
So if a character has been made in a convincing way, that's what we're going to bring to the book. We're going to bring shock and outrage and relief and sadness, as if it were more than just little black lines on a white page.
Right. You're reading for language first, though. When you're not reading as a writer and just reading as Anne hanging out on a Thursday, you're reading for language first, though, right?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
I mean, it's all
okay.
It's all a package.
All right.
You know, if something is poorly written, I'm not going to continue for sure.
Yep.
If poorly written in my judgment. But if something has beautiful sentences and doesn't interest me, I'm also not going to continue.
I'm more forgiving of beautiful sentences than I am of not beautiful sentences. So I will give you more time. I really don't like to be the person who's like, well, give it 150 pages and then it really picks up. I'm not arguing.
Give it 20.
Right. I'm not arguing for that. I really am not arguing for that. But I find that if nothing happens, I'm okay. Right? If the poetry is there, if the language is there, I'm more forgiving of stuff not happening.
Well, what about this question? How much do you need scene versus exposition?
I need scene more than exposition. I also voice. I'm going to switch gears for a tiny bit. Scene to me feeds into voice. Exposition is kind of like, okay, great. Well, now I have a little bit more of a map. Cool, thanks. Scene and voice and language. Those are the things that I hold on tighter to. I mean, I also don't have to like characters. I really don't have to. I need to be intrigued by them.
Right. The whole likability thing. Forget that.
Not interesting to me.
Yeah.
Not interesting to me. But scene, atmosphere. I mean, again, there is a delightful chilliness to New England that I think helped me sit a little closer to Claire's decision. Because I had that initial shock of, are you kidding me? What? And then I'm like, but actually it makes sense. You know, here she is, having grown up in Connecticut, in the suburbs of Connecticut, in a certain way, in a certain class, with a certain milieu and a kind of person. And Maine is its own wild, weird place. I mean, there's not a whole lot of places like Maine.
And I knew that Maine had to play a part in the book. And again, we don't want to go into it, but that was important.
Yeah. I'm going to be delighted when other readers get their hands on the book and get to. It's a very taut narrative. It is a very self-contained book, and yet you get from Connecticut to Maine. That's not a small drive. We have done that drive. It is not a small drive. How much, though, of Claire's experience of the world is set out by that geography, or is that me being a reader bringing my story into it as well?
Well, I think she does have a rather insular life, a kind of northeastern corridor life. Yeah. She grew up in this New Haven suburb where they're now living, unnamed, and enrolled in a PhD program in English literature at Yale, and didn't finish her dissertation, and is married to a businessman and has this community of other families and women friends and couple friends, and goes into New York from time to time. It's a milieu that I don't know that it defines her so much as well, everyone lives inside of something, and it's what she lives inside of. That corridor. You
grew up in and around Silicon Valley, and then we've seen some really significant changes. How much of that change in landscape shapes you, shapes the work, certainly in the Children's Crusade, yes, a lot happens because of that change in landscape. And I do want to treat it a little bit as, I don't want to give too much away on the Children's Crusade, because you know what, just because you and I know this book has been around for a minute, there are people who still have not read it.
And that's shocking.
Well, that's okay, but now they can. I just don't want to spoil it for them. But landscape, this isn't landscape as character, landscape as destiny. That's not how I'm raising this. But I do feel like, again, going back to something I said a little earlier, with this grounding.
Yeah, I think you're talking about what a writer has to do to make a character be fully embodied. And the place where the character finds herself, the body that the character finds herself in, the people the character relates to, all of that is physical. And I look at landscape in the same way that I look at other aspects of the physical world. You know, it's not so much. I like to give it enough space so that it feels fully present.
Yeah.
I'm probably not ever going to be someone who uses a lot of description about physical place.
Right.
But I have to see it so that I can figure out what little bits I want to include. And that helps the reader see it.
Yeah, I mean, if you asked me what Claire and Elliot's house looked like, I would have an opinion. I would have some ideas. I would know, like, I've been in a house like that. You know the terrain kind of thing. But I'm not sure it would necessarily match up with whatever you might have. And I like that. I like that room. I like that space to sort of imprint however I'm going to imprint, because it matters, but it's not the thing. It's not the soul of the thing.
Right. And the reader needs room to project into the text.
Clausen's Pier was your first novel. And I know you've said this before, but, the thing about writing your first novel. And the story collection, Mendocino and Other Stories had come out.
Yeah.
Clausen's Pier, Dive from Clausen's Pier comes out, and, a couple of times you said, well, when you're writing your first novel, that's essentially what you're learning to do is write a novel. I mean, do you feel like you sit down and now know how to write a novel, or do you just kind of go?
Yeah, I think what you learn writing a novel is how to write that novel.
Okay.
Not a novel.
Right. Okay.
So, I mean, I think the change that happens over the course of a writer's career has largely to do with confidence.
Okay.
And confidence in doing what you want to do. Not like this is a good sentence, but like, I don't know if anyone wants to read this, but I want to write it. And that's reason enough.
Yeah.
And you're not even thinking about it. I mean, I think it's writing a book, thinking about what people want to read is, I think, a recipe for unhappiness and stifled creativity.
I mean, I've been a bookseller for a really long time, and sometimes you just know it when you see it. I mean, it's a cliche for a reason, but there are times where you sit down with a thing and you just know it is going to work, and maybe it's not necessarily the thing for you personally, but you know it's going to work.
Yeah, and I think often what's going on there has to do with authority.
Yeah.
The authority of the voice, of the writer's intentions, and the sort of when a work is fully realized and fully itself.
Okay, so when you say, the work shows up when it shows up, it comes from your fingers essentially. But don't you recognize the voice? Don't you hear some of the prior work, or is it just every single piece is its own original thing?
Well, actually, I think it's more every single piece is me.
Right.
Everything I write, everything any writer writes is furnished by their entire experience and limited by their entire experience. You can only write what you can write. Well, you can only write what you can, but I mean, there's a little bit of research that goes into it. But that's part of what you can write. Okay. That's part of what you can do. I mean, sorry to be like incredibly annoying about it, but
it's not annoying. It's fun. It's really fun. But it doesn't feel like you need to do crazy amounts of research. I mean, I think you really sit with the moral dilemmas, and then you go from there. And once the language is there, once the sentences are there.
Yeah, I don't like to do research very much. Okay. I think when you do research, the biggest job you have is to forget what you learned, so that it can just come into the text in a natural way, rather than like, here's a scene based on the trip I took to the lab down the street. Right. Whatever. I don't know why I said lab. I can usually get anything I want on Google. And in fact, speaking of the Children's Crusade, there is a sort of central passage where the family is having Thanksgiving at Penny, the mother's parents' house, and the children are watching TV. And what they happen to be watching is news reports about Jonestown.
Right.
Now, I didn't go, how can I find a way to have these children become aware of Jonestown? I went, what would have been on TV Thanksgiving of 1978? And I was like, oh, I like that. That I could use.
This works.
Yeah.
This works. Now, that, to me, though, there's a naturalism. There's a lack of affect, I think is what I'm trying to say. There's a lack of affect when I'm reading you. And it's not like, oh, I've plunked myself into this novel. It's like, I want to hang out with these people. I want to see where this goes. I want to understand how people decide to do the things that they decide to do.
That's so kind. That's such high praise. Thank you.
You know, I'm a curious cat. What can I say? But also, I mean, people are fascinating. They're really, really fascinating.
Right.
Even
That's
when
all
I think
you need.
Even when I'm kind of like, wait, what? I go back. My initial response to Claire was, huh. Did this guy cheat on you?
What's motivating you?
My brain started doing some stuff, and it was like, and the way Some Right Nowhere unfolds it's unexpected, and it's so smart, and it's light. It's a light touch. It's a light touch. So how much of the writing is in the rewriting? I mean, you mentioned your messy first drafts. I get that.
Well, not really. My
Not
first
messy?
drafts
Okay.
aren't messy. They're just very intuitive. It's when I get to revising that I'm more intentional and deliberate. And, you know, there are things that I'm trying to actually do rather than just trying to get some more sentences down. This book, this was so fast. As I said, I wrote the first draft in 4 months, and I did 3 or 4 small revisions.
Okay.
And it went out on submission, you know, not even a year had gone by.
Oh,
So it was
wow.
very, very fast. Yeah, it
Did
was
not
very
know that
fast.
part of the story. Did not know that. That sounds like lightning fast to
It
me,
was
but-
lightning fast, and it followed a period of many years where I was working on something else.
Okay.
And let's just say struggling
It needed to be
mightily.
put on a shelf away from other things. It needed
I
to
think,
not
I
be-
don't know, maybe, you know, in the backyard somewhere, not just a
Okay.
shelf. I say that not out of disregard of it, but more just sort of acceptance that I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it where it needed to go, or I needed it to go, or maybe it was too interior, too quiet. I mean, that's always like the kiss of death. It's a quiet literary novel. Oh dear. But I do think that that's what I write.
Both. We can have both. I think it is possible. Quiet literary novel, yes, there are some people who will, their eyes will, I have seen it happen at lunch, their eyes will roll back into their heads. And, but I think there is space for lots of different kinds of story. And I mean, certainly as a bookseller, I probably read a little more widely than some. Do I gravitate back to the things I love most? Of course I do. I'm human.
Yeah.
But I think there's so much opportunity for us to ask bigger questions of ourselves when we bump into worlds that maybe we're not expecting. Right? Like, this is not your average suburban family story. Like, the stakes are high. The stakes are really high in Some Bright Nowhere.
Yeah. But that's kind of, for me, that's a given. The stakes have to be high to, for me to want to write about it.
Okay.
The stakes have to be high. I mean, and here, the distinction between novels and short stories really matters, because I've written many short stories where the stakes are not that high. I mean, the things are happening to people.
Yep.
I mean, that's sort of the definition of a story. A thing happens to a person. But I think if you I want a novel to have a propulsive quality, even if the things that are moving the reader forward are quiet. I mean, I think I said in an interview once, I write about people changing their minds, which sounds like really quiet, but that's kind of where a certain kind of drama really happens.
I go back to what you said at the top of the show, where you were saying, change is where the story happens. That, right? A good short story is about that hinge moment. There's before tips into after, right? That is a short story.
Right.
And the consequences of before, tipping into after and all that. But with a novel, it's actually not enough to have that tip, right? You have to go beyond that. You have to spend more time with the consequences.
Yeah, I think it's hard to generalize, but the consequences of the consequences are also part of the story. And I'm always trying to see characters through something that will leave them changed. And in my first two novels, both of them unfolded over about a year.
Right.
And so then when I started writing the Children's Crusade, I thought, I want to do something different with time.
Yep.
And it ended up being decades. And so with this book, because of the subject matter, I thought, wow, now I'm going to do a few months.
Right.
But it's nice to have a formal challenge. It's nice to be doing something formally different in a book, even if you're working inside the same basic terrain.
Have you started a new thing?
I have not.
Okay.
Actually, that's not true. Well, I shouldn't admit this because all the people I've told I haven't will now find out that, in fact, I wrote half a page the other day.
Okay, half a page is the start of a thing.
page.
That's the start of a thing.
Yeah.
I can be quiet. I can sit in the corner. I can be patient, sort of, when it comes to knowing that there's a new book out there. So this is where I say, Ann Packer, thank you so much. I'm so excited for more readers to get their hands on Some Bright Nowhere, because I think Claire and Elliot are going to surprise them as much as Claire and Elliot surprised me. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, and I hope so. Thank you so much. This was a pleasure.
Thank you for listening. Poured Over is a Barnes & Noble production. To help other readers find us, please rate and review the show wherever you listen to podcasts.